The IASB has issued a lot of new standards in the last decade. And these standards all focused on recognition and measurement, such as, for example, revenue recognition. But interestingly, we have done very little to improve presentational requirements. And as a result, the income statement under IFRS is rather form-free. We define revenue at the top and we define profit or loss at the bottom. But in between, we do not really define any subtotals. And both investors and also companies themselves have a need for subtotals to analyze their performance and to analyze different aspects of their performance. For example, operating profit is one subtotal that everybody likes to use. As a result that we do not define such subtotals, people have started creating their own subtotals. This is also called non-GAAP. Many companies do that in a different way so that one operating profit of one company cannot be compared with an operating profit of another company. We find that a very unsatisfactory situation. Also, investors find that a very unsatisfactory situation, and that's the reason why we have issued an exposure draft for a new standard that entails a lot of important improvements in the presentation of financial information. One important set of proposals in our exposure draft is the introduction of 3 new subtotals in the income statement. And I believe that this very important proposal will give much better structure to the income statement and will create a lot more comparability to investors. The fact that we now ourselves define 3 new subtotals will probably decrease the necessity for companies to use non-GAAP measures. However, we do not have the illusion that companies will no longer use non-GAAP measures. And the truth is that investors often find those non-GAAP measures useful. So we do not aim to root them out. However, what we do aim to do is to provide a little bit more discipline and transparency around the use of non-GAAP. So what we will propose is that if companies commonly use non-GAAP measures or management performance measures, as we call them, for example, in investor packs, that these measures must be included in one single note in the financial statements so that they are easy to find for investors. And we will also require that these non-GAAP measures or these management performance measures are going to be reconciled to the nearest subtotal in IFRS. And the fact that we have now defined subtotals will make it easier to do so and will create more transparency for investors so that they can see exactly what is the difference between this management performance measure and the definition of IFRS of, for example, operating profit. An additional advantage of bringing this information in the notes is that non-GAAP measures will become subject to audit. So all in all, we believe that these proposals will provide a lot more transparency and also more discipline around the use of non-GAAP. A third set of proposals aims to improve the level of disaggregation throughout the financial statements. Investors sometimes complain that too much information is lumped together in one single line item. For example, companies will use a line item called other income or other expenses that encompasses a vast number of expenses. And we will provide guidance that will help preparers to present and group together information in line items in a way that is more meaningful to investors. Investors also like to judge the degree of persistence of elements of income and expenses so that they can make predictions of future cash flows. And for that reason, we will require companies to create a note in which they list all the elements of income and expenses that are to be considered unusual. Unusual will mean that they have limited predictive value for the foreseeable future. And we will provide guidance in the standard for companies as to how to do so. I believe that this set of proposals is very important and that it could even be a game changer in financial reporting. It will provide much better information to investors and it will also make it better possible for companies to explain their performance to investors. So I urge all our stakeholders to actively engage in the exposure exercise and to let us know their opinion either in the meetings that we will organize or by writing your opinion to the IASB.